Hey y'all, it's Helen Castillo here, and I just wanted to show you or give you kind of an overview or introduction to an industrial sewing machine. So here we have a Juki DDL-8700. It is a straight stitch industrial strength sewing machine. With that being said, this only does a straight stitch, but you can use practically any fabric on this machine. So let's take a look at some bits and pieces that are, and I just kicked the tripod, but roll with it for a second. So with this type of machine, you're not going to use the same bobbin, you're not going to use the same needles, you're not going to use the same feet as you would with your home sewing machine. And the reason for that is this is industrial strength. It is typically used in factories that do mass production with garments or accessories especially. So the idea is that it can kind of handle more, kind of like more pieces at a time, if you will, or just manufacturing. So think of this machine just running perpetually and sewing dozens and dozens of t-shirts or evening gowns, bridal gowns, all that fun stuff. Here I've got the bobbin plate cover. It is just kind of slid open to expose where the bobbin and bobbin case are. The good thing is that you can just slide this open with, I've just got like nippers here, or you can use a screwdriver, and there's kind of an opening in the plate to expose where the bobbin and bobbin case are. So you actually reach under the machine and you pop this bad boy out. So here you've got bobbin and bobbin case. My lighting is not phenomenal, so I'm gonna make some adjustments. All right, so here we've got the bobbin case. It looks a little different from your home machine because typically you would just take your bobbin and drop it in there. You'll see they're very, very shallow, and they're always metal for the industrial machine. As for the bobbin case, you've got like this latch here in the back, and when you place the bobbin back into the machine inside the case, you're going to hear it click. That means that it's set in, it's ready to go, and we can move forward. So unlike your home machine, this bobbin is going in clockwise, and it's going to latch into a little opening here and get caught in kind of like a hook or prong area. I like to leave a few inches extra so I can pull that back up into the machine like you would your home machine. And there's that click. So by all means, don't feel obligated to have this type of machine. Just know that if you're planning on doing like heavy duty stuff, or you'd like to invest in something that you can make many pieces on and not have issues with the quality of the machine, etc., etc. So yeah, so let's talk about some of the fun bits and pieces that go with this machine. Here I've got a set of 110/18 size needles. That's the gauge of the needle. With an 18, you'll usually be sewing heavier weight fabric. So most recently I was sewing leather on this machine. So I have a Teflon foot that is on the machine right now. I can take that off and show y'all. And the nicest part about having metal bobbins is that when you need to remove a foot, you can just kind of, I say that and then I can't do it. You can use the bobbin as kind of like an alternative to a screwdriver. But yeah, so let's take this Teflon foot off. So I'll go through some of the feet that I have for this machine. A Teflon foot is used for leather, vinyl, any types of fabric that are very slippery and more in that weight or vein of like a skin. So you wouldn't necessarily use this for like satin or anything that's very silky finish. It is really so that the plastic of the foot glides along fabrics that don't want to move under a regular presser foot. Here is the good old classic presser foot for this machine, and this has a safety bar on it. You can remove that bar or you can leave it on, but this probably looks really familiar, similar to the one that you have on your home machine. Then you've got a zipper foot, and with zipper feet, you're going to use either side zipper foot. So you've got either a left side or a right side, depending on what side of the zipper that you're attaching. And here I have my absolute favorite, and it is a baby roller hem foot. It is crazy. You can buy these in different widths depending on what type of fabric you're going to be putting a baby hem on. So basically what it does is it does like a double rolled tiny hem. There's a lot more to this, but that's kind of the outcome of what you get when you use this attachment. This is 1/8 of an inch wide, so it's giving you a 1/8 of an inch wide baby hem or rolled hem. So that's just nice to do on more delicate fabrics. As per when you're using a thicker needle, especially like a size 18, you're definitely using it on fabric that's more dense or thick or heavyweight. So traditionally I would put a size 14 on this. So let's see if I have those. Got 9 here. And I'm not sure if anyone else has this bad habit of placing your sewing needles and your machine needles where you place your pins. But just a side note, when you have a machine of this caliber, the entire body of the machine is metal. So I got this at like Harbor Freight, I think, or like the dollar store, maybe like Dollar Tree. But it's actually in the like the home improvement or like the tools section, and meant to collect like metal bits and pieces when you're doing hardware stuff. Yeah, so but I thought it was great because it's got this magnet on the back. You can place it on the machine. I like to place mine on the lamp because I can just kind of keep the needles away from what I'm sewing. My kind of like golden rule about sewing in general on any machine is it's very dangerous to sew over pins. So try to get out of that habit. I know it just helps to keep things aligned, but better to be safe than sorry. Here's something funny that's in my machine drawer. It's my button bag button. If you know, you know. But yeah, after season 12, I asked if I could keep that. So it's kind of my little nostalgia little thing. Yeah. So, okay, here I've got, I believe this is a size 14. So another thing that you're familiar with sewing machine needles is that you've got, and this is, you know, kind of a comparison between a home machine and industrial, is that with the industrial needles, it still has an engravement. Oh my God, it's so small. There it is. Organ 14. Perfect. So we'll replace this needle on the machine. So with your home sewing machine, the actual head of the needle for the machine has a flat edge. So it makes it a lot easier when you're putting that needle into the machine because you already know how to align it when it's being replaced. In this case, with industrial needles, you have a tiny little ridge, and that's going to be the inside of the needle. So that's going to point towards the inside of the machine. It's going to be facing like the back tack and stuff. So I'll show you that in a minute as well. So let's get our handy dandy not screwdriver. And let's change up one of these needles. So since we already have the bobbin and the case in the underside of the machine, I am going to close this plate as well. And another good habit to get into is always placing your needles back into the package. Just helps keep them organized, and it can get really difficult when you're, you know, if you just place them on your mag. Anyway, that's common sense. You get it. So I'm going to place my regular presser foot back onto the machine, a smaller gauge needle, And when I place this guy on the machine again, there's a teeny tiny ridge. I'm not sure if, of course, because I'm doing this like in like moody lighting. Yeah, so the ridge of the needle should be facing inside. So let's place that. And I hate to break it to y'all, but really, like, it's a matter of precision on your end when you're placing these needles in. I've just kind of pushed it as high as possible up into the machine and as tight as I can as well. And same for the foot. I personally hate taking that screw out because I have a bad habit of not getting it back into that little opening. On this machine, you have a thigh lever, and I can show you where that is. It's below the machine, but above the sewing foot, like pedal. So I just can lift my shank a bit higher so I can place my foot in there. And you can totally drop this presser foot if you prefer, and then you can fasten your foot. So you gotta get a little creative when you're at the machine. I just prefer to keep only the tools that are entirely necessary in the drawer of my machine, because I don't want it to get just overwhelmed with like clutter and stuff. So I only have my needles, bobbins, extra bobbin cases, my feet, and my nippers. So I actually don't even keep fabric scissors at the machine. If I ever have to cut fabric, I totally take it back to my cutting table and I'll cut it, I'll cut whatever I need to there. Just another heads up with the zipper feet, you buy a left or a right individually. There are other types that you've probably used when you've sewn on your home machine that look like a little box. I don't really care for those because I feel like you don't have as much precision or kind of a visual of what you're sewing. So we've placed the bobbin in the machine. Just gonna close this bad boy up. And let's get up close and personal with this area. So now that we've got the thread on the spool holder, it's coming up and through. There's actually an arm that extends above the machine, and you want to place the thread up through there. It just kind of helps with the tension and all of the moving parts in the machine. We've got one wheel up here, and I have to go clockwise through those two metal plates. And there's a little spring on there. It's just another one of those tension areas. So we're gonna go through, it's gonna look very, very similar to threading your home machine. So you're gonna be pleasantly surprised when you see how quickly this goes. So we go through the bottom, we wrap from left to right through the top of here. Then we're going down and back up. So we're gonna get hooked on to this little prong. I don't know the technical terms, but you get it. It's the right direction. Then we're gonna go clockwise through this this tension wheel. And unlike your home machine, this has it doesn't have numbers on it. Some models, depending on who the distributor is or the year that the machine was made, it would have numbers, but really there's a spring in there, and depending on how heavyweight of a fabric you're sewing, you would turn that up or down, or lightweight up or down for tension. Then I'm gonna get caught on this little metal bopper here. So this metal, it almost looks like a tortured paper clip. It is so important that you are in this part of the tension wheel, because everything's going to be moving while you're sewing. And if you don't catch in there, you're not going to get the correct tension that's kind of, being forced by that wheel. After you're in that little tortured paper clip, you're going to come up and you're going to hook into, it looks like that lever that lifts up and down from your home machine. So we're going right to left, then we're gonna hook into this prong and we're gonna come back down. So for the remainder of threading this, we're gonna hook onto There's kind of a swirly prong there as well. And just like your home machine, above your needle, you most likely have an opening. You don't necessarily have to go through this opening, but it's there for a reason, so don't be afraid to use it. So this is the least fun part of the entire process, but we are good to go. If your foot has this this metal bar, I'm just gonna thread through that so that I can hold the thread towards the left side of the machine. I can hold it away. Anytime you're sewing, whether it's on your home machine or on this machine, it's good to have both of the threads out and ready to roll. So this machine gets a little loud. Oh, it doesn't. This isn't the loud one. Okay, I've got like 4 of these and 1 industrial serger. And I got lucky with this one because it doesn't make any noise until you're sewing. So I've got my foot gently on the foot pedal. I'm rotating the hand wheel towards myself. And I just popped my bobbin thread up. So you're gonna get a loop. All right, so you can just barely see the loop that I pulled up from the bottom of the machine. So I'm just gonna use my nippers and I'm gonna pull that bobbin thread away. So you can see my bobbin thread is black, my top thread is green. And now that both of those are up, I'm gonna be sure my top thread is through my foot and my bobbin thread is coming up and out. I'm just gonna have about 5 or 6 inches worth of a tail that's gonna go behind the machine. So the most important thing to just kind of familiarize yourself with is that before you start sewing, you have to try a test swatch. That means grab a piece of, a small clipping of your fabric that you're going to use for your final project and just run it through, be sure that your stitch length is correct, your tension settings are correct, that you're using the correct thread for that project. And you'll also see that there's a throat plate here, and that is your indicators for seam allowance. We've got 1/4 inch, so the line that's to the left of 1/4 is 1/4 inch away from the needle. So unlike your home machine, you cannot move this. The shaft of the machine needle isn't able to move left and right like with a zigzag or any of those embroidery stitches. So where that needle is falling to the distance of each of those indicators for seam allowance is the exact distance. I'm gonna grab a swatch and a ruler. All right, so I've got a swatch of muslin and I have a see-through ruler, and this is your BFF when you're doing any sewing or pattern making. And the reason for that is you can obviously see the distances through the ruler. It helps a lot too if you want to just double check the distances from your needle to your throat plate, like for whatever reason, maybe your needle got bent or you feel like you're being thrown off a little bit because you're using a zipper foot and you're like, wait, but is my needle still that distance from the raw edge of my fabric? So I just placed my my see-through ruler directly centered with my needle. If I wanted to get crazy, I could rotate that hand wheel so the needle would go straight down and tap on the ruler, but I'm feeling pretty confident with where I've placed it. So straightforward, 1/2 inch from the center of the ruler to the 1/2 inch mark on the throat plate is 1/2 inch seam allowance. So just to kind of give you some perspective. I've got some style tape here, which is used for draping. And I usually move that, sorry, I don't know what that was that I just grabbed off my machine. I usually use style tape or a Post-it note or masking tape if I need a wider seam allowance or a seam allowance that's in between. So I'll use the clean edge of the tape to represent the seam allowance I need. All right, so before you jump into your project on your final fabric, you want to double check that your tension is set high enough or low enough depending on what project you're doing. You want to be sure you have the correct needle, the correct foot for whatever technique you're going to be using, and be sure that your stitch length is proper. So when you're ready to sew a test swatch, just be sure that you take a look at the back side of the fabric, double check if your tension is correct. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough and introduction on the Juki DDL-8700. Again, this is an industrial machine. It's more frequently used for manufacturing or in factories that produce many quantities of an item. You can sew anything from chiffon to wool to leather to vinyl on this machine. And although it's a pretty hefty investment, it'll last you a lifetime. I highly recommend that if you cannot afford a new one, check on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. And usually you can bring them to either be serviced at like a local, you know, it's good to ask like at a dry cleaners because they have these types of machines. This is what they're using when they're tailoring garments for customers. So they may be able to point you in the right direction as to where to buy one or have it serviced. But if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and I'm looking forward to more videos with y'all. So just good luck with your sewing projects. Let me know if there's anything I can help with, and thank you for watching.